Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of T3 podcast series, Bolder Voices, Better Insights, where we speak with bold leaders shaping the future of travel, tourism and hospitality in India and beyond. I'm your host, Navneet Mendiratta, and today we're diving into a topic that sits at the intersection of booming growth and thoughtful responsibility, India's hospitality boom. Joining us is a very special guest, Nikhil Sharma, a key voice in shaping hospitality across South Asia. As Managing Director and Chief Operating Officer of South Asia at Radisson Hotel Group, he leads one of the fastest growing portfolios in the region. With a career that spans decades in hospitality leadership, Nikhil brings a rare mix of operational depth and strategic foresight. And in this conversation, we explore how Radisson is blending business expansion with social and environmental responsibility from Tier 2 India to cross-border South Asian hubs. Nikhil, welcome to T3 podcast series, Bolder Voices, Better Insights. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Navneet, and thank you for having us. Really appreciate it.
So let's begin with the broader landscape. The post-pandemic, we are way past pandemic, in fact, now. We've seen a remarkable revival in Indian travel. But unlike earlier, this wave is powered largely by domestic travelers. How are you seeing this play across the Radisson network?
Well, let me just give you a small brief about Radisson and where we are, right, as an organization, and where our India plays, if I can say that. We are today 131 hotels strong in the country. We are in more than 76 locations. Of course, if you're in more than 30 locations in this country, you truly believe in the Bharat story, and that is where Radisson has always been, and that's where Radisson's heart has always been. The Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4 story, and we can talk about it. But I think more importantly, G20, and I want to speak how G20 changed the landscape for India, because you started seeing large MICE movement. And traditionally post-pandemic, we're only speaking about weddings as a MICE group, but G20 really transformed the MICE segment, and that is important. The ICC World Cup that came in 2023, major rock concerts that we saw across the country last year are really booming, and that really helps hospitality flourish. Particular, if it was Coldplay in Ahmedabad or it was Diljit performing in a city, you saw those hotels going sold out. And I just want to basically say, so I'll start again. So if I was to look at some pillars today, you're looking at, of course, the business travel that stays, but you're looking at pillars of leisure, spiritual travel, and locations that need to be explored in and around where people are living in this country.
Growth is a great story, but then with it comes also responsibility. We are seeing also destinations, you mentioned some, then there are other destinations like Rishikesh, Shimla, or Udaipur, which are facing the real pressure, where there's a lot of tourism and over-tourism for that matter. How does hospitality sector, and specifically Radisson, balancing its growth in both driving and managing this growth?
So firstly, we understand over-tourism because we are a global player, and we see this in multiple cities across the world, right? And which is why, and I can speak about this a little later, but we are working on decongesting and creating new flags in a place like Saputara, Karjat, Javai, and so on and so forth. But we can speak about that later. But coming back to your question, we are an extremely sustainable group. We are a group that is committed to net zero by 2040 and reducing the carbon footprint at our hotels. And each of our hotels, we're making sure that they are carbon footprint neutral, and there are various initiatives that we are working on, where in South India, whether if it's open access, and so on and so forth. And of course, making sure that the hotels that we open are sustainable, are eco-friendly, and don't pollute the environment that they're in. And I also want to put another step in this. And I can say, growth in this country is eventual. At 185,000 keys, it is clearly under supply in this country. And in my personal view, we will go to 1 million operating rooms in the next 5 to 7 years. So the next 5 to 7 years for the hospitality industry are really the golden era. from a growth perspective, and you will see more and more brands signing more hotels, opening more hotels. What that really also means for us, for a country that has 800 million people under the age of 30, is more employment, because after agriculture, hospitality and tourism is the second largest employer in the country, and globally you see this trend as well, right? Tourism is the largest employer in most countries that attract tourism, and the entry barrier for tourism is not high. You don't need to be an MBA to start working in tourism, right? So I think that itself is going to enable a lot of employment, and you will see more people being employed in hospitality going forward.
And speaking of India strategy, your expansion across the country is notable. As you mentioned, like a lot of new, properties that are possibly going to be opening up. But it seems to be guided not just by opportunity, also by purpose, the way we see it. Tell us more about this expansion with purpose approach that Radisson has.
It's a great question. I think we've always wanted to invest in under-penetrated markets. Right? You see a drive from the government of India in the last decade or so for Northeast. As an example, of course, there are limitations from a hotel company perspective on the size of the asset that you want to operate in key markets, or even in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 markets. And we've created products for that. So last year, we actually launched a product called Park-In and Suites, which is actually a tier 4, tier 5 product. It's a 3-star product, but it's, let me just say, localized, because typically in the West, you will not see any convention facility or any banqueting facility in a 3-star product, right? But in this part of the world, we want to celebrate, and whether it is Thrissur, a small town, or Vellore, and I can go on with smaller towns. People in that city do want to celebrate. They do want to come out with their families, and they do want to have a good time, right? And there's lack of quality facilities that match international standards. So that's what we are doing in these cities. The second thing I would say is, let's just say, promoting alternate areas to saturated hubs, right? Yes, there is a Lonavala. Yes, there is an Amritsar. Yes, there is a Varanasi, right? But what are we doing beyond that? And we've been very, very conscious about trying to pick partners and locations which are unique. And we put not only the flag there, but we make sure that the tourism ecosystem comes up there. And I think Karjat is a great example and the journey of Karjat actually shows that. When we started, where we were in Karjat and where Karjat is today, and Karjat today is on the map, and there are more hospitality players coming into Karjat. We've opened a hotel in Saputara last year. We opened in Javai this year. And these are small locations and hubs that need to be developed. Of course, we continue to look forward to the 50 destinations that the government of India will announce, and we will see how we can partner in those destinations.
There is, as you said, this great opportunity in smaller cities. I was in Ayodhya recently, and I realized that you don't really have very good properties to, kind of stay. And it's coming up even as a cultural destination. There's a cultural festival there, which Ayodhya hosted for the first time. So apart from and beyond Ram Mandir, they're looking at a different aspect of the city for growth. So I think these places do offer a great, opportunity for the hoteliers to kind of get into and start something new there.
So Navneet, you're right. And it comes to length of stay. So Ayodhya today, and we were the first international operator to open Ayodhya. We opened actually a few days before the Ram Mandir, right? And we of course saw great occupancies, and Ayodhya continues to do well. But to your point, it all comes to length of stay, right? And Ayodhya today is a one-night destination. Agra today is a one-night destination. Even with everything Agra has to offer, is still a one-night destination. Now, let me take you to Amritsar. Amritsar is a two-night destination, right? A minimum. And we're talking about, if we were talking about spiritual circuit, Amritsar has more to offer, because other than Golden Temple, it's the food, Jallianwala Bagh, so on and so forth. So I think what the government is doing and will continue to do is build these assets out so that people stay more than one night. And that really helps tourism and helps bring the culture of that city up.
Uh, no, and we always have the advantage of being the first movers, or at least among the the first ones to actually start something, and in that segment, I suppose.
We try,
So
we try.
sustainability, often sits as a checkbox, especially on corporate presentations. But turning policy into practice, especially in high traffic destinations, is where the challenge lies. How is
Yeah.
Radisson embedding ESG in the real world operations?
Well, okay, like I said, we we are committed to, and we don't really call it ESG per se, but let me just say, for us, it is embedded in everything that we do, right? If we've committed to being net zero by 2040, it's not just a statement that we're making, we're working towards it, and it's a journey. And our ESG framework, if I can say, is it guides us from the long-term investments, it partners with daily operators, and it's across properties. Construction that I spoke about is important. Energy efficient materials, because we are in the growth phase, we have to be conscious of that. Passive designs, green building certifications, these are all elements that we are ensuring that for new builds we get in. We manage our energy, and of course, in a lot of states now, with infrastructure status coming up, energy costs are becoming more economic for hotels, but that's not the story across the country. Water and water matrix is important because, case in point, let's just take Bangalore as a city, right? And you are seeing how Bangalore is losing water. Now, as an organization and hotels can contribute greatly to that. I mean, getting a tanker into the property is not the solution. So how do you consciously make sure that customers recognize scarcity of water, not only in Bangalore as a city, but across India and across, and I think most Indians actually understand value for money, and they are by default conscious towards sustainability, if I can say that. And I think today guest experiences are also evolving, right? They're more conscious, and even from an F&B sourcing perspective, what are we doing? How can we move to digital first experiences? I think those are the elements. But if I was to now look at, let me take you to waste management, right? High traffic hotels require much higher efficiency solutions. So we're actually partnering with an organization that actually ensures there is less wastage, and this is all done through a digital platform, right? So we are piloting that at the moment to see how can we actually reduce first. I mean, obviously chefs do their job, but we are now using technology to see how we can actually reduce wastage further. Single-use plastics, of course, goes without saying. We've transitioned all our bulk dispensers in our rooms. From that perspective, I would say that it needs to come from within, and that's a culture that we are building when it comes to sustainability. Each hotel is encouraged to innovate locally, which has led to very specific best practices that we can actually take across to a lot of our hotels. And last on this piece is, of course, constant training and education to everyone.
Well, it is important, I guess, to keep the staff engaged and trained, if their involvement, and especially local staff, their involvement is very important for any sustainable kind of, property to grow. So B2B community, travel community, that plays a massive role in shaping travel flows. How does Radisson engage travel agents and partners to support a more balanced, sustainable tourism?
I must say that we are getting better at it. We are not as good at it at the moment. We want to partner far more with the trade. And I think in the last, Navneet, you and your team have actually seen RFG 3 years before, 2 years before, and the differences we've made in the last 1 year, whether it is trade events, whether it is road shows, we are ensuring that we are more inclusive. Also because, and I must say, I have to confess, a lot of our hotels are leisure locations, right? And yes, while online will continue to grow, at the end of the day, we are in the people's business, and people matter. And the offline market or the travel trade market or the travel agent market is an important and integral part for us, and we continue to nurture that and grow that as we believe that this journey can only be done together, and you need many partners to go forward in this growth story.
So apart from Radisson's presence in India, we've been only talking India so far. What are the key South Asian markets beyond the India that you are watching closely for expansion, and why?
Okay, given India's size, it will always be the hero country, right? I mean, and I don't mean to geopolitically demean any other country in our region, but a particular city, a city like Udaipur can have as many REG properties that a certain other country can have, right? So the focus is always where you see growth. Why I said Udaipur is because we have a Radisson in Udaipur, we have a Radisson Blue in Udaipur, we have one hotel in Nathdwara, which is a Radisson operating. We have a Radisson Blue in Nathdwara, which is an extension of Udaipur, opening 230 keys. And we have a Radisson Collection in Udaipur opening, which is 350 keys. It's a 100-acre site. And there is propensity to do at least potentially 2 or 3 more in Udaipur. Right now, case in point, if you were to take a country up north or on east of India, we would be super happy to have 7 hotels in those countries. Right. So, and this is one city I'm talking about in India. Right. Imagine the propensity, and I mean we have 25 hotels, 26 hotels. Right. So that's where the scale is, and we continue to be focused where scale is.
But there's always an opportunity to collaborate. There are a lot of lessons that one can learn from like Southeast Asia, especially where sustainable and responsible tourism is. Thailand's doing great for that matter. There are other countries which are doing great for that matter. Do you foresee any collaboration in the future? With something where you can pick up something or collaborate? Are you looking at something like that?
Absolutely. So, Navneet, we are a global company, right? So all our practices are global, right? And we each learn from all regions. Let me just say that we follow the 80-20. This is something that I've been doing for a long time. You need to follow the 80-20 principle. 80% is global practices and 20% is local. And you localize it. It's like, if I was to draw an analogy, it's like a buffet, right? So the international practices are the buffet. You pick what suits your region, and don't pick what is not in your region. So it's the knowledge and the knowledge share is far greater, and it's for you to take what you think is best.
Looking ahead, 2030 isn't far. You already have probably a plan etched out till like 2040, as you were saying, the vision. What is your vision for future of Indian hospitality, especially in terms of resilience and inclusivity?
It's a big question that you asked, right? Of course, growth will continue to be a main pillar. We will continue to focus in the Bharat story and grow in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities. We continue to grow in spiritual destinations, and that's a key pillar for us to grow in. And the other piece that I spoke about of wanting to decongest and flag new locations. And I think it's important for hotels to lead that way. And of course, with everything that the government's been doing, with the infrastructure setup that's happening, it is aiding us. And the whole road network that has come up, the whole railway network that is coming up, whether it is north of India or northeast of India, will help aid better tourism, right? So that is where we want to be invested in. We want to ensure of course, are sustainable. Every organization does talk about profits. We need to be profitable in every site that we open, and that's a key metric that one will look at, because you don't want to open and then say there is no business. But I think there is enough thought that each organization and we put in specifically before we flag a location.
A lot of international companies are also looking at India, like considering we are a big market. How do you view your competition? Where does it lie, and what gives you an edge there when it comes?
So Navneet, firstly, competition is great, right? And I've been saying this. The more Karjat, for example, and I'm giving Karjat's example because it's a success story today, right? We were the only hotel operator in Karjat. Today, you have 4 other brands that are coming there because they see the business in that location, right? There is only so much of there are so many hotels that will open in Delhi, Bombay, or the top 10 cities, right? If you have to grow, you have to grow in the other parts of the country. And for that, you do need competition because it helps bring more tourism. If Ayodhya tomorrow has 40 hotels, it gives you that much more scope to have more conventions, more MICE movement, larger group movements, and of course, more travel to Ayodhya. And these are cities that we have spoken about. So I'm just taking those examples, of course. There are 70 plus other locations that we can speak about in this context. So what is our USP, if you were to ask? I think we are a global brand, but we think very local, and that is our USP. And of course, I would like to say that owners and partners are very happy with. We're humble people at the end of the day, right? And at the end of the day, that's really who you want to do business with. So I truly believe that is our USP.
What about government and policies? Do you think hospitality, needs more attention from the government? Maybe change in the, the way taxation is today, or there's more that you require from that.
So, firstly, I think Prime Minister Modi has always spoken about tourism. In the last Union Budget speech, the Finance Minister spoke for 2.5 minutes on tourism, which was the longest ever that we've heard of the Finance Minister speaking. So there is, I think, conscious movement in that direction by the government of India. They'll always wants more, and whether it is Faith, HAI, FHRAI, or any other hospitality tourism body, we have been asking for a few things, whether it's infrastructure status, whether it is GST, or whether it is, some other small related items. But I think the government is also conscious of it and is working towards it through various bodies, and the bodies are at it. So of course, it will help eventually if the GOI does something in that direction. Let me just give you one example in the Union Budget, the personal tax that reduced, right? As an example, and of course, there's geopolitics aside, it does put more money in the pocket of the middle class, and what that really means is that's disposable income. And globally, the trends are that 30 to 40% is an increase in hospitality and tourism when disposable income goes up. So we will see those tailwinds with us as and when these reforms start taking place more and more.
You mentioned Northeast. In fact, this is a question that stuck from the point, when we were talking about the region. How do you see hospitality growth in Northeast particularly? Because one eventually ends up being with homestays. There's always a complaint that we don't have enough places to stay when it comes to hotels to stay. How do you see the region, growing? Do you see a growth there coming up in the recent years, or what is needed to be done?
Well, again, it goes back to the connectivity issue, right? Now, Manali to Leh, right? Leh, and I'll take these two regions because they are remote locations, Northeast and Leh, okay? Because it's important. These are great tourist locations, but you don't have quality accommodation or branded quality accommodation. Let me just put it that way. You may have quality homestays, but not branded acco available in these locations. With more and more infrastructure coming in, the whole Manali-Leh road opening up, now you will see more and more hotels coming in Leh because the connectivity to Leh is better, right? There's only a certain segment of travelers that will take a flight to Leh. Road travel, rail travel continues to be the largest source for India to grow. Let me give you an example. Srinagar, and I think we should speak about Kashmir, given everything. We have 5 hotels in Kashmir. We opened a Radisson Collection, which is our luxury collection hotel, last year with 212 keys. Now, in that category, there are only 2 other hotels that exist, right? And the combined inventory of 5-star hotels in Srinagar is 412 keys. So it tells you just the scope, even in Srinagar, which 20 million tourists last year, 20 million tourists the year before. And it tells you that in the luxury segment in Srinagar, there are 400 odd keys that are available, right? So it just tells you the scope, even at the luxury segment, how much there is to expand. And of course, in the upscale, upper upscale, and mid-scale in a city like Srinagar. So with connectivity improving, with the train starting, you will see more and more travelers going to Kashmir. You will see more and more travelers coming to Northeast.
So to round up, is there something you would like to tell our listeners, something special about the industry, about the group that you would want to share with them?
Well, Navneet, all I'd like to say is join the industry. It's a great industry. There's great scope of learning, travel, tourism, and you get to meet people of all kinds. And I think it's the last thing that I'll say is it's not a time to talk about business in a place where we are today. We are a nation and our authorities and safety first. So all that said, tourism will follow and business will be back to where we are.
Thank you. I really enjoyed this conversation. I'm sure our listeners are also going to, do that the same. Thank you for sharing your perspective on the growth and responsibility and how the two must go hand in hand in hospitality. Thank you for tuning in to T3 Podcast Series, Bolder Voices, Better Insights. Don't forget to follow T3 Podcast for more conversations that shape the future of travel and tourism. Until next time, stay curious, stay responsible. Thank you.